Why did Starfleet officers change their uniforms all the time? Did it have something to do with Law and Order Special Victims Unit? Let's see if we can make it work on All Hail RETCON.
William Shatner stars as Captain Kirk, and Leonard Nimoy as Science Officer Spock on Star Trek in color.
Star Trek first came out in 1966, and what also came out around that time were color televisions. So Star Trek really tried to capitalize on the beauty and newness of color with very bold, colorful outfits like gold command uniforms. The uniforms worn in the original series, as well as the first season of Next Generation, were designed by William Ware Thies. However, he's not the person to blame for the really short skirts that were worn by the women, and some of the men. The skirts were made short as a suggestion by Grace Lee Whitney, who played Yeoman Rand. It was her suggestion to make the skirts really short. If you look at the Romulans, if you look at the Klingons, they really haven't changed their uniforms over the centuries. Starfleet, on the other hand, looks like they change uniforms every other year. And they kind of do. But why? Star Trek the Motion Picture, if you saw it and stayed awake, you saw that everyone in Starfleet wore some sort of gray jumpsuit. But what you didn't see was that the jumpsuit fed directly into their boots. Tens of thousands of dollars were spent to have a bizarre design where the pant leg fed directly into the boot. But there were never any shots of that, so we never ever saw it. So money was basically wasted on this really elaborate costume choice. William Ware Thies is the person to blame for the tightness of the uniforms worn in the first season of Next Generation. They were very clingy, they were a one-piece bodysuit, and actors often had to tug on them to make sure they were straight and smooth. Patrick Stewart, sitting in the chair, had to make lots of adjustments, and the joke was his adjustment of the uniform was the real Picard maneuver. They eventually made the uniform into two pieces and gave Patrick Stewart his own special captain's uniform, which premiered in Season 5, Episode 2, entitled Darmok. He loved the fact that it had a jacket, but really didn't like the black part on top because it was made of leather and he thought it smelled really bad. They did a slight redesign, and he really preferred that newer version. There's a very small gap of time between the last episode of the series finale and Star Trek Generations. They originally had this kind of strange idea where they would create a costume that was a hybrid of the militaristic uniforms seen in Star Trek II Wrath of Khan and the Next Generation outfits. They actually shot a couple of scenes. One scene in which Geordi is captured by Dr. Soren, we can see him in the background with this kind of funky hybrid outfit. But at the very last minute they scrapped it and decided to go with the uniforms from Deep Space Nine. They only really had enough time to make a uniform for Brent Spiner and Patrick Stewart. So if you look at everyone else, there's something strange going on, and you can see that when you look at Jonathan Frakes. His costume doesn't seem to fit very well, and the reason why is because it's on loan from Avery Brooks, who played Benjamin Sisko in Deep Space Nine. In Star Trek First Contact, they changed uniforms yet again, and now Deep Space Nine had to follow suit, so to speak, and change uniforms. You'll notice in the episode Rapture, when they first switched uniforms, that Sisko's comm badge is much higher up than it normally is, because they didn't really know how to dress him at the time. In the next episode, they lowered it down. Having people in Starfleet change their outfit is just more opportunities for me to buy more and more Starfleet uniforms. It's the same thing, too, with the variations in Batman action figures. Aqua Batman, Robot Batman, Jungle Fighting Batman, Space Batman. To be honest, Starfleet changing their uniforms is probably a way just to get you to buy different merchandise. But what if it was done for a very specific reason? And that reason can be found with the Law and Order series. There were several episodes on Law and Order, as well as Law and Order Special Victims Unit, in which undercover cops had to articulate to cops on duty that they were in fact on the job. How did they do that? By talking about the color of the day. The color of the day is how undercover cops are able to tell other people that they're on the force without giving away their cover. So what if changing uniforms in Starfleet is a way to allow for people to time travel? If you are a time traveler and come back to a different era, you don't want to have to give away that you're from another time period. So how do you know where you are without asking somebody what year it is? Because if you did, that might be kind of strange. Because Starfleet changes their uniforms so often, that might be visual markers to allow for time travelers to take a look and go, oh, that uniform is from that particular time period. I know where I am without having to ask anybody.
So you're telling me you're some kind of a time traveler?
Maybe this will help clear things up. I know this must seem a little overwhelming.
That's my crackpot theory, and I'm sticking to it. Post your comments below. I'd love to hear about what you think. If you have any suggestions for other things I can make work, please post them below, and maybe you'll see it in a future episode. Like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on All Hail RETCON. What is this?